So it's, again, this very basic story about how individual decision problems and social decision problems are very different. And getting good intuition about that and seeing lots of examples about these differences, also knowing when they're the same, is just good stuff. We learn a lot about the world that way, and I wanted to put this up because I don't really do work on problems in networks, and I knew of Tony's passing, and at the same time, it's also just the best kind of simple example not too many people have seen of simple reductionist models that teach you a lot. Other simple reductionist models that teach you a lot of the prisoner's dilemma, you all know what that teaches you. And then it leads to other things, just as this leads to other things, such as what happens if you play repeatedly the game. So I like that stuff, and in one version of this I had 12 examples. They went to social choice, so I could pull out some nice. But we talked about some of this in your office. There's just a lot of nice examples. Now, okay, that's the friendly part of the talk. Now it's going to get harder. So now we're going to move towards a research paper. But I promise not too much torture, and my voice won't hold out that long anyhow. I never talk for more than an hour. Except they force us to in our classes, actually. Not so good. So this is a research paper. It's a paper that is in the process. A version of it with one less author was essentially accepted for publication. So this will see the light of day. And it's now much better because of the addition of another author. So in addition to myself, one author is Marcus Opp, who's a graduate student in the Graduate School of Business at the University of Chicago, doing wonderfully in the job market. Quite a terrific young man. He came to the University of Chicago from Germany. And the other person who really cracked the nicest kind of example for illustrating what we wanted to illustrate is Christos Tombazos, who's of Monash University in Australia. So one needs, and now if you've thought so far I've been a reasonably clear and good teacher, this is going to become much less friendly. Some of the time I'm going to be tempted to just look at Andreo because he wrote the book and because I've corresponded with him about this. But I think for many of you we can carry you along, and I certainly should be able to tell you what the result is, what the nature is, how it relates to the kind of reductionist, somewhat counterintuitive, things are different when you do social equilibrium than they are when you do individual equilibrium. So there has to be a little bit of preparation, and the preparation, and now you will see pictures, which you've done the problems in chapter 15 will be familiar to you. Let's start with the top box. You have to understand this, know what an Edgeworth box is. There are two consumers, consumer 1 and consumer 2. The origin for consumer 1 is at 1. For consumer 2, it's at 2. You really should think of a continuum of infinitesimal agents, but it's fine doing it this way, and you're sophisticated enough to know the difference. And the initial endowment originally is at A, which means that agent 1 has almost all of the commodity that's measured on the horizontal axis, and, and agent 2 has the rest, and agent 2 has all of the commodity that's measured on the y-axis. And the subject of interest is whether an agent can make a gift to another agent. In this case, it's going to be 2 who's making the gift to 1, and do better by the fact of making that gift. So we're going to start with an equilibrium with initial endowment at A, and it's the steeper price line, and it cuts through the two indifference curve, so there's an equilibrium allocation at alpha. And then the gift is made, so agent 1 winds up with more of the first commodity than he had before. He now has all of the first commodity. Agent 2 still has all of the second commodity. So the initial endowment is B. And at B, after this gift, there's an equilibrium that's been drawn, where again the price line P prime separates the upper contour sets for agent 1 at beta and the upper contour set for agent 2. For agent 2, you have to look that way at beta, so that's an equilibrium. And one sort of sees what it might be that leads to the kind of anomaly that a gift can be advantageous to the person who makes the gift. You're giving commodities. The other person's starting with more commodity than he had before, more of one, the same of the other, and it's going to hurt him. And this should have something to do with transfer problems and real things that go on in economies. And what could make this happen, you quickly get the idea from the picture, is that the terms of trade change with this gift. When the initial endowment is alpha, people trade along this line. When it's beta, they trade along this line. And since agent 1 is trading for the second commodity, he has to give up a lot more of 2 to get less of commodity 1, and he's hurt. That's talked about in chapter 15. And it's also mentioned as a problem that it's impossible to do this, at least for the Edgeworth-Box case, with just 2 consumers and have a unique equilibrium. And those of you who want to pursue this further can simply take the initial endowment A and look at the dashed price line through the allocation beta, and what you'll see is that there's too little demand for commodity 1, which means the price of commodity 1 must fall because of boundary conditions to get to equilibrium. I've said that in a loose way, but it really means that there's another equilibrium with even lower prices for 1 than the P star prices. So there's a little exercise to show that, in fact, this disadvantageous gifts, the business of giving a gift and being better off can happen in an Edgeworth box with a unique equilibrium. Well, you know, less out of puffiness and to sort of show off the things I've done than because it's substantive, and also to thank Andrea, who gave me the lower picture, to me and to Wayne Schaefer in preparing a expository version of what we knew about demand functions in general equilibrium and aggregate demand.